Look, I know how this sounds. I really do. You're probably already shaking your head, maybe even muttering some choice words under your breath. And yeah, on paper from the outside looking in, I was the villain. The ungrateful, selfish bee. I get it. But before you pass judgment, before you decide I'm just some irredeemable monster, can you at least hear me out? Just a little bit? My name's Eleanor. I'm 34. And I blew up my perfectly good life because it wasn't perfect enough for me, I guess. Because I wanted more than good enough, because I was suffocating under the weight of predictable, steady, utterly soul-numbing stability. And yeah, I made some choices. Big ones. Life-altering, irrevocably damaging ones. But in my defense at the time, they felt like the only choices I had. They felt like freedom. We had been together for 12 years, Michael and I. Since we were kids, really. High school sweethearts turned college sweethearts, then apartment-sharing sweethearts, then mortgage-paying sweethearts. He was the kind of man everyone idealized. Stable.
Kind.
Responsible. He remembered my favorite coffee order, my mom's birthday, the obscure band I liked in high school. He'd bring me flowers every other Friday, not because it was an anniversary, but just because it was Friday. Our friends adore him. My family practically worshipped him. They'd say, "Eleanor, you landed a good one. Don't ever let him go," and I wouldn't. For a long, long time, I wouldn't. I thought I had it all. The perfect partner, the cute little house with the garden, the stable jobs. We were the couple everyone envied, the ones who had it all figured out, the ones who were going to last forever. But that's the thing about perfection, isn't it? Sometimes, it's just a really shiny cage. Michael's attentiveness, which everyone else saw as devotion, started to feel like smothering. His reliability, that rock-solid dependability, began to feel like a heavy blanket pinning me down. His sweetness, that gentle, unwavering affection, seemed weak, almost saccharine. There was no edge, no challenge, no glorious, terrifying unknown. Every day was a carbon copy of the last, meticulously planned and executed. Our date nights were Tuesdays, without fail, at the same Italian place where we ordered the same pasta. Our weekends were devoted to house projects and quiet evenings watching documentaries. Even our intimacy became a scheduled event, a comforting routine rather than a passionate exploration. He loved me, I knew he did, with a deep, steady, unwavering current that never faltered. But I didn't want a current. I wanted a storm. I wanted to feel something that wasn't just safe. I wanted to feel alive. And then Leo walked into my life. Or rather, I stumbled into his. It was at a new yoga studio I'd joined, desperate for something, anything, to shake up the monotony. He was the instructor, all lean muscle and restless energy, with eyes that seemed to hold 1,000 unspoken stories. He had this wild, untamed hair and a laugh that crackled with electricity. Everything about him was the antithesis of Michael. Michael was a book. Leo was a whole damn library, waiting to be explored. He wasn't just present. He was utterly consuming. He challenged me in class, pushed me past my limits, then lingered afterward, asking about my practice, my life, my dreams. He actually looked at me, not just at my face, but into my eyes, like he could see all the parts of me I kept hidden, even from myself. And he didn't flinch. He just nodded, his gaze intense, like he understood every unspoken ache. The first transgression was innocent enough, or so I told myself. A quick coffee after class just to talk about yoga. Then it became dinners, ostensibly for deeper discussions about mindfulness and energy, but quickly morphing into conversations about everything and nothing, about the universe and our places in it, about the kind of raw, vulnerable emotions I hadn't shared with Michael in years, maybe ever. I'd come home buzzing, my skin alive, a frantic energy coursing through me. I'd invent elaborate stories for Michael, late-night work sessions, girls' nights out that never happened. The lies slipped out so easily, lubricated by the adrenaline of secrecy. Every text message from Leo, every clandestine meeting, felt like a jolt of pure, unadulterated life. It was thrilling. It was intoxicating. It was everything Michael wasn't. And the guilt? It was there, a dull throb in the background, but it was easily drowned out by the sheer thrill of feeling seen, truly seen, for the first time in forever. I was finally breathing, I thought. I was finally myself. The deception became a rhythm, a clandestine dance I performed with such seamless precision, it almost felt like a second life. My phone was glued to my hand, always on silent, always face down. Dates with Leo were carefully plotted around Michael's work schedule, my fabricated excuses growing more elaborate, more believable. I started staying late at the office, claiming urgent deadlines, when in reality, I was with Leo, exploring parts of the city I'd never seen, talking until the small hours of the morning about art and philosophy and all the things Michael just wasn't interested in. Michael, bless his trusting heart, never suspected a thing. He'd just nod, tell me to be safe, maybe bring me a late-night snack when I finally got home, eyes sparkling with the false exhaustion of a hard day's work. He was so incredibly, achingly good, so trusting, so utterly oblivious. And in my twisted mind, that made it easier. His unwavering faith felt less like a bond and more like a license. He just trusted me, and that trust felt like permission to do whatever the hell I wanted, because surely he wouldn't be hurt if he didn't know, right? It was a selfish, rotten thought, but it was mine, and I clung to it. This new connection, this vibrant, electric energy with Leo, was what I needed. It filled a void I hadn't even realized existed. It wasn't a betrayal, I rationalized. It was self-discovery. It was growth. It was me finally choosing my own happiness. What's wrong with that? That has to count for something, right? And then, the really big decision happened. The one that irrevocably severed the last ties to my old life, even before it fully imploded. Leo and I, our connection had deepened, intensified. It wasn't just coffee and deep talks anymore. It was a physical, all-consuming passion that lit me up in ways Michael never had. It was reckless and wild, and everything I told myself I'd always craved. During one of our intense, stolen nights, we talked about our future, what this was. He spoke of a nomadic life, of freedom, of rejecting societal norms. He was everything my practical, stable world wasn't, and that's what drew me to him. I was pregnant, with Michael's baby. It was a mistake, of course, a stupid, careless mistake from a night when Michael and I were trying to reconnect, trying to find that lost spark. He had been so excited when I told him, his face radiating pure joy, talking about nurseries and baby names, a future so perfectly mapped out it made me want to scream. But when I looked at Michael, all I saw was the end of my newfound freedom, the final nail in the coffin of the exciting, unpredictable life I was building with Leo. Another responsibility, another layer of suffocating domesticity. I was terrified. Terrified of being trapped again. Terrified of losing the electrifying connection I had with Leo, who had made it very clear he wasn't interested in anything that tied him down. He even said, "We're too free for that, Elle, don't you think?" I needed guidance. Desperate, frantic, unable to think straight, I found a psychic online. She had rave reviews, talked about helping people find their true path. I poured out my heart, my dissatisfaction with Michael, my yearning for Leo, my fear of being trapped. I didn't explicitly mention the pregnancy at first, not until she looked at me with those unnervingly knowing eyes, all calm and serene, and said, "There's a new life force, a young energy that's tethering you, holding you back from your true journey." My blood ran cold. She didn't know, she couldn't know, but she knew. She said that my current path, the one with Michael, was not my destiny, that I needed to shed the old skin to truly grow. She spoke of a bright, unconventional future, but only if I was brave enough to make the hard choices. She never said, abortion, not once. But the message was clear. This was the tether. This was the old skin. I had to choose my freedom. I had to choose myself. And so, with a heavy heart but a strange sense of conviction, I did. I told Michael I'd had a miscarriage, a sudden, tragic loss. His devastation was absolute, gut-wrenching. He held me for hours, rocking me, his tears soaking my hair. And a part of me, a tiny, buried part, hated myself for it. But the dominant voice, The one amplified by Leo's whispers and the psychic's words, told me this was for the best. This was for me. This was my freedom. But the universe, as it turns out, has a twisted sense of humor. That unconventional future with Leo? It shattered almost immediately after the abortion. I told him what I'd done, hoping for his understanding, his appreciation for the lengths I'd gone to for our connection. He listened, his face unreadable. Then he just nodded. "Yeah, well," he said, shrugging. "That's intense. I thought we were just having fun, Elle. Nothing too serious. I'm not really the commitment type. That he suddenly found a new job opportunity in another city, an unmissable chance to explore his true self, which apparently didn't involve me. He ghosted me within weeks, a few cryptic texts, then total silence. The exciting mirage dissolved into thin air, leaving me standing alone, the bitter taste of my own choices thick in my mouth. My true journey had apparently led me right back to where I started, only now I was pregnant, childless, and with a monstrous lie hanging over my head. My fantasy was utterly, brutally destroyed. The collapse was swift, brutal, and entirely unexpected. I came home one evening, after a particularly desperate and futile attempt to reach Leo, and the house felt different. Too quiet. Too still. Michael was sitting on the sofa, bathed in the dim light of the living room, his face a mask of cold fury I'd never seen before. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't crying. He was just glacial. He held up my phone, not the one I usually carried, but an old one, a burner phone I'd used to communicate with Leo, thinking I was so clever. "We need to talk," he said, his voice flat, devoid of all emotion. My stomach dropped. The air was sucked out of the room. I felt dizzy. He didn't need me to confess. He already knew. He had known for weeks, maybe even months. He had seen the subtle changes in my behavior, the furtive glances at my phone, the growing distance in my eyes. He'd noticed the way I'd flinch when he touched me, the way I'd suddenly become busy on our regular Tuesday date nights. He told me he'd felt it, deep down, something was wrong. So, he hired a private investigator. He tracked my movements, intercepted my texts, collected photos. He knew about Leo. He knew about the coffee dates, the dinners, the overnight stays. And then, he said, his voice cracking slightly, "I know about the baby, Eleanor. I know you weren't sick. I know there was no miscarriage." He had found the appointment records, the clinic address, the proof. He had seen my lie, my monstrous, unforgivable lie, laid bare. He had been compiling a dossier, systematically, meticulously, silently. All the while I was congratulating myself on my cleverness, on my ability to juggle two lives. He had been watching, gathering evidence, building a case against me. It was like something out of a bad movie, but it was my life. His decision was absolute. There was no negotiation, no begging, no tears from him. Just a chilling, resolute finality. "I want you out," he said, his voice stronger now, firmer than I'd ever heard it. "By the end of the week. Don't try to contact me. Don't try to explain. It's over." He'd already frozen our joint accounts. He'd already changed the locks on the house we'd built together, metaphorically speaking, but effectively, literally. He had already contacted a lawyer. He had thought of everything, anticipated every move. He had become a stranger, a cold, efficient machine, utterly unlike the kind, trusting Michael I had so carelessly discarded. And just like that, everything was gone. My husband, my home, my carefully constructed illusions. All of it obliterated in a single, devastating conversation. As for Leo, the exciting mirage as you called him, he vanished without a trace. A final, cold text message. "Look, Elle, this is messy. I'm not about drama. Good luck," and then silence. Blocked on everything. He disappeared as quickly as he appeared, leaving me utterly alone amidst the wreckage I had wrought. It was rock bottom, I suppose. And it was all mine. The fallout was immediate and brutal. My social circle, mostly mutual friends Michael and I had cultivated over the years, evaporated. They were loyal to him, of course. How could they not be? He was the victim, the good guy, the one who had been so cruelly wronged. I tried to reach out, to explain, to offer some pathetic, flimsy apology. But my calls went straight to voicemail, my texts went unanswered. When I saw them at the grocery store, they'd look through me or turn their backs. I was a pariah, the woman who betrayed the kindest man they knew. Even my own family, initially sympathetic, quickly turned cold when the full truth, as told by Michael, came out. My mother, heartbroken and furious, cried and told me she didn't recognize me, that I'd broken a good man's heart and destroyed my own life in the process. My sister, my best friend, looked at me with an expression of such profound disappointment that it physically hurt. "How could you, Elle? How could you lie about a baby?" she whispered, her voice thick with disgust. My attempts at reconciliation were met with a wall of stone. There was no forgiveness, no second chance. Just silence and condemnation. Meanwhile, Michael. Oh, Michael. He didn't just survive, he thrived. It's almost unbearable to watch. He lost weight, started going to the gym, got a new haircut. He looked a lighter, happier. The quiet kindness that had felt like a weight around my neck now shone like a beacon. He started a small business, something he'd always dreamed of but never had the nerve to pursue. And it's actually successful. I see photos on social media, tagged by our former friends, him laughing, genuinely laughing, surrounded by people who adore him. He travels, he goes on adventures. He's living the vibrant life I thought I needed to seek out with Leo. The life I foolishly believed Michael couldn't provide. And the worst part? He's found someone new. Someone bright and bubbly, who looks at him with the same open adoration he used to reserve for me. They're engaged. They're buying a house. They're talking about starting a family. The very future I threw away, he built with someone else. I was at the grocery store a few months ago, a different one, of course, trying to avoid any familiar faces. And there she was, Michael's mother. A sweet, gentle woman who had always treated me like her own daughter.
She saw me.
There was no avoiding it. Her face hardened, her eyes, usually so warm, were like chips of ice. She walked right up to me, her voice low, but sharp as a knife. "You know, Eleanor," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "Michael thought he lost everything. But he didn't. He lost someone who didn't deserve him. And he found himself. You lost everything, and you still haven't found anything. And you never will, because you still don't know what you're looking for." She paused, her eyes piercing mine. "You think you wanted freedom, but all you did was cage yourself in a much smaller, much lonelier box. You made your bed. Now lie in it." The truth bomb, delivered with such quiet devastation, it stole my breath.
And here I am.
Alone. Utterly, completely alone. I lost my partner, my home, my friends, my family's respect. I lost the promise of a child. I lost the thrill of Leo. All of it. And for what? For a fleeting fantasy? For a freedom that turned out to be nothing but isolation? Sometimes, I try to tell myself I don't regret it. I tell myself I had to choose myself, that I had to want more. That Michael couldn't give me what I truly needed, that he was too safe, too stable, that my restless spirit needed more, that I was just too much for him to handle, that it was a rut, a dead end, and I had to escape. But then I see Michael's face, truly happy, truly at peace, and I see the stark emptiness of my own life. I acknowledge, sometimes in the dead of night, that I was selfish, that I was cruel, that I destroyed something beautiful and good because I was too immature, too self-absorbed, to appreciate it. I learned a lot, they say. I grew.
I found out who I really am.
But who I really am, it turns out, is a person sitting alone in a small, empty apartment, scrolling through social media, watching the life I threw away flourish without me. I wanted a storm, and I got a wasteland. And sometimes, in those quiet, brutal moments, I realize that for all my talk of freedom, I'm more trapped now than I ever was before. Just trapped in a cage of my own making, with nothing but bitter regret for company. Is this what freedom feels like? Because it feels a lot like a life sentence.